Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing great. So today we're going to get back to our shed project, installing our roof rafters. So I previously made a pattern, um, and I matched our existing roof rafter. So our rafters are going to be a little different than we would traditionally show you how to install them, due to the fact that the shed was built by a shed company offsite and then just installed here. So they didn't necessarily use pitch, or an exact pitch, and they didn't use bird mouth cuts. So I just went inside the shed and used my framing square to find the angles of the rafters, of the plumb cut and the level cut that they made, and just duplicate them. So as you saw previously, we would install, when making a rafter, would put a bird's mouth cut and a tail cut on ours. In this case, these don't have that. So let's get started, and I'll show you exactly what we got going on. Okay, real quick, so I do have my pattern. I just want to show you one thing. So in the world of rafters, we have our line length, which would be the end. This is where the middle of our ridge is going to be. So we would measure from here to where the outside of our wall is, right here on that line, and that's our line length. Now over here, this line right here, I've added so we have an overhang over the edge of the roof, and I just matched what was there. So now our actual rafter length would be from here to that spot where our wall is. And the reason we do that is because we are actually going to cut 3/4 of an inch off. We're going to cut that right off with that excess, because we're going to install a ridge. So our ridge is 1.5 inches thick. So when we divide that by 2, because this is going to go straight down the middle, so it's going to affect the rafter on the right and the rafter on the left. So we're going to take 3/4 off of each side, and then it won't affect our rafters. All right, so we're back. I cut all my rafters. I used my speed square and my tape measure, and I copied them all identical. So now remember, these aren't just like standard rafter. They're a little different, where they were prefabricated by a shed company, so they're not necessarily how we're going to teach you to do them, but I'm forced to match them so my roof lines up. So now I'm going to install my ridge. I measured it to length. I measured off the distance of our gable end to the distance of our new gable end, and that will be the length of our ridge. I also laid out my ridge while I had it on my sawhorses. That way it eliminates having to work off of a ladder, and it's just easier working down on the ground when it's on your level, rather than having to move around on a ladder or staging. And lastly, make sure you always crown your ridge, your rafters too. You want to make sure if there is a crown, or remember that's like a dip or a hump, you want to make sure your crown, which is your hump, is pointing up. That way it doesn't, when it settles, it'll settle level rather than having a sag in the piece. So I'm going to install my ridge real quick. What I did was installed a 2x4 block on one end. That way it'll make it easier for me to get it up, where it's just by me holding it. So it's just a temporary piece. It's gonna hold the opposite end of the ridge up level with my side. All right, so we're ready to install our rafters. I just want to make a real quick point. The way I got, in case you're wondering, the distance for my block to hold up the opposite end of my ridge was, I leveled my top plate across the wall, and then I measured up on our total rise for where our ridge was going to end, and then I deducted 3.5 inches from that distance, because our total rise was 24. I deducted 3.5 inches, and that was 20. Our total rise was 24. I deducted 3.5 inches, and that gave us 20.5. So I knew I could cut that block on the other end. Now I'm just gonna check it with my level just to make sure, and we can start installing our rafters. So as we install our rafters, what we're gonna do is we're going to start on this end. We'll do 2 here, then we'll do 2 on the opposite end of the building. As we install them, our rafters are going to align our ridge and straighten our ridge out. So rather than install them all on one side, what I'm going to do is, I'll install this one, then I'll install the one on the opposite side. Now I'll go a few down and I'll do the same. I'll install one, then on the opposite side. This is going to ensure that it's going to keep our ridge straight and even. If we were to install them all, and I did have to try and tweak the ridge with all the rafters installed on one side, it's going to be hard to move. Now also, I went back and I snapped a line on our top plate for where our roof is, our level cut's going to land. So right there, you can see that I snapped a line at 1 inch from the inside edge all the way down, and that's where I'm going to hold my short point for the ends of the rafters. My long point up here on the top of my rafter, our plumb cut, will intersect with, will be flush with the top of our ridge. Now, one more thing. We're going to start installing them. We're going to toenail the ends into our top plate, and the same as for up here. Some of these we might be able to through nail, some of them we'll have to toenail because it will, the rafter on the other side will keep us from doing that.